Hello and welcome back to the On The Ball podcast. This is episode 125 of the show, and we are here once again to chat about the Rugby League. We'll be talking about round 7 of the NRL, concluded on the weekend, obviously. Anzac Day round, Anzac round was the case in both codes, but yeah, really important round, filled with a lot of prestige and pride for the players. It's a great opportunity for players, fans, coaches alike to come together, pay their respects, and enjoy the game we love, footy, whilst thinking about the brave soldiers who went to fort and stuff like that. So that's always an enjoyable aspect of, well, not an enjoyable but a moving aspect of Anzac round in the NRL, as it is in all sports. So today we're going to be talking about the usual things, the winners and the losers. We're going to update our predicted top 8. We're going to chat about next week's games. And we're also going to have a little look at the 16 coaches currently in the NRL. A few coaches are currently coming under a bit of fire, mainly probably Michael Maguire and Kevin Walters. So I'm going to do a little bit of a tier list. I've got about 5 categories, and we're just going to sort through the coaches and see where they currently stand in the pecking order. But before we get to that, we're going to be doing a winners and losers as always. Starting with the winners, starting the positives. It's the Manly Seagulls. They've gone back to back. We thought the Titans game might have just been a fluke. The Titans weren't great that day, but they've come up once again, not the strongest opponent in the Tigers, but the Tigers were really good for the first 25-30 minutes. Had a lot of possession, put them under a lot of pressure, and they came out of it with only 1 try, and then the Seagulls just took charge for the remaining 50 minutes. They're still not even at full strength yet, which is a good sign for Seagulls fans. I think Curtis Sirenen's to come back. Joel Thompson, I don't know if he's playing or what's going on there. I don't even know if he plays NRL anymore, to be honest. But yeah, I know they've got a couple injuries. Moses Sully, I don't know if he's in their best 17 anymore. Morgan Harper's been pretty good the last couple of weeks, but there are definitely a few injuries, so that's frightening that they could get even better. I don't know what's happening with Manasi Fainu. It's probably one of the strangest stories in rugby league right now. There's just no updates about it ever, so I don't know if he's going to play this year. I doubt it, but it's pretty exciting thought for the future when he comes back, or if he comes back. Mix that in with Turbo's form, Cherry Evans' form, and it's just going to be a very exciting team. But looking at the now, they all of a sudden look like people were predicting them to make the top 8, and then after the first few rounds, you're like, they're kidding themselves, and all of a sudden they look like they're not even going to be that far off. There's that 8th spot. There's a bit of a big 6, and then there's probably the Titans outside of that, and then for 8th, I think there's 4 or 5 teams who are really, really evenly matched, and so Manly are right in that mix for me. And yeah, they've just proven it back to back. This is going to be a huge test this week up against Penrith. Penrith's paying like $1.18, so obviously the punter's not giving Manly a stiff, but it wouldn't be the most wild thing in the world. Well, it would, because Penrith basically don't lose, but it's going to be a huge test for Manly. This is really going to show if they're any sort of finals contender or not. If they get blown out of the water by Penrith by 40 points, well, we could probably just write them off for finals after it, despite the last 2 weeks. But if they come out, don't necessarily win, but put on a good showing, then all of a sudden they're right there or thereabouts. So exciting times. Tom Trbojevic has thrown himself. The whole debate early this season, we did a whole episode on it pretty much. Pappenhausen or Tedesco. And then the last 2 weeks, I think Turbo's just gone, hang on a sec, I'm still here. And I'm not saying he's better than them, but I'm not, at the start of the 2020 season, I actually did personally believe that Turbo was the best fullback in the game at that point. At the moment, I'm not sure. He's a very good player, but the other 2 are playing brilliant. They're probably the 3 best players in the competition right now, next to Nathan Cleary. But yeah, it's just insane how good he's playing. Everyone's getting around Jake Trbojevic as well, which I have to say, I'm not very good at pointing out Jake Trebojevic's strengths in the game when I watch him, but Kieran Foran and Cherry Evans definitely playing better. Blokes like Ola, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, sorry, but Haumalo Olakau'atu, I think it is. He was pretty good. They've just, Taniela Paseka played well, Tapau played well, so exciting times for Manly after what was a very bad start. Moving on to another team that had a bad start, the Bulldogs. They notched up their first win under Trent Barrett, beat the Sharkies 18-12, and Well, it's not like obviously the ideal start to the Dogs. They don't want to be sitting at the bottom of the ladder, but they got their win. That's the main thing. No one wants to be sitting on that duck for too long. No one's been unrealistic of what this season's going to be like for the Bulldogs. Yes, they had a few raps on them in the preseason because of all their big signings, but I think we pretty quickly realised that they're not going to be a top 8 team, which is fair enough. They're building for the future, and they've announced this morning that they've signed Brent Naden to go with Addo-Carr and Burton, so they're building a really exciting future. I think it's a smart play what they're doing, going for the play. Well, not like Addo-Carr's a fringe play, but they're going for the players on the fringes of the good teams. So they come in, they drive the culture, stuff like that. Like Corey Allen came in from a successful Rabbitohs side. Burton and Naden will come in from a successful Panthers side. Kotrick came in from a successful Raiders team. So all of a sudden they've got a nice blend of all the quality teams right now. So that should be good off field and on field. But yeah, I'm interested to see how their backline lines up this next year. They've got a lot of players now to choose from in that backline. Still would like to see maybe 1 or 2 signings in the forward pack till I think they are actually a sniff at top 8. But I like what Trent Barrett's doing in terms of signings. It is interesting. He's obviously a very well liked coach because the amount of pull he has compared to someone like a Tigers who we've really struggled to get big name players. Not that Brent Naden and Matt Burton are household names, but like they are coming from teams that have gone on 20 match winning streaks, and Addo-Carr's coming from a team that's won like 3 premierships in the last 5 years or whatever it is. So it's interesting that the Bulldogs have such a pool, considering that they've been really poor for a long time. But really happy for Bulldogs fans. They're tired. Looks like it's starting to turn. And hopefully they can keep building that team for the next few years and show some real signs of progress throughout the rest of this year. But well done to Trent Barrett and the Bulldogs team. And then next, we've got the other team. These are probably the 3 teams we talked about at the start of the season being the bottom feeders. But the Cowboys have now won 3 on the trot. An amazing victory over Canberra. I didn't actually get to catch the Bulldogs or Cowboys games because I was out on Saturday. But from what I saw, that's pretty impressive to put up 28 points against the Raiders. I think it was 26 to 24. People were saying it was not a bad game. Raiders came out with a couple injuries. Looks like the Cowboys have found their spine combination, which has taken them a while, but it looks like they're going to settle for that for the rest of the year, which is good. Tamalolo probably comes back this week, not 100%, but that's good news for Toddy Payton and his Cowboys. And it's looking up and up for the Cowboys. Look, I don't think they're going to get too many wins for the rest of the year, if I'm going to be completely honest. But one good thing for them is they have such a huge home ground advantage. It's probably one of the biggest travels for most teams. It's a completely different climate up there to, say, Sydney. So, if they keep using it like they did here against the Raiders, they're going to probably upset some big teams up there in North Queensland. So, exciting times for Cowboys fans. Another winner I'm going to touch on is the Titans versus Rabbitohs. This was the dead shift. The Friday 6pm game is always the worst game of the round. Or the second game on Sunday is usually pretty bad as well. But me and my older brother were talking about, I swear no team has ever put up a good performance on Friday 6pm, even if they are a good team. Like, they just seem to fall to the level of the time slot, which is a strange theory. But these two teams proved it wrong on Friday. This was the game of the year by far for me so far. It is only round 7, but it's going to be hard to top it. The Rabbitohs ran over the top of the Titans 40-30, 70-point thriller. Everyone's been not happy with the amount of points being scored so far this season, but when it's split evenly amongst two teams, it's not 70-0, it's 30-40. It's a very exciting contest. The Titans just showed the Rabbitohs weren't full strength. They had Latrell out, but they still have an absolute abundance of talent on that field. The Titans showed they're not the team that loses to Manly 36-0. They're a team that pushes the Rabbitohs to the last 5 minutes. So that was really positive signs for Justin Holbrook and Titans fans. I was obviously going for the Titans, and it sucked that the Rabbitohs got up, but well done to both teams. Put on an absolute show for the fans at home and at the ground. And hopefully the Titans can keep playing that exciting brand of footy that they have been so far this year. Should be good for their fandom. I think there are a lot of people's second teams have been for a long time. So, except for that one guy in the comments in my video the other week who said he didn't like the Titans, but I think that's very few people. Just touching on Benji Marshall, I talked about it last week, and yes, he played well, but I'm not copping when Benji Marshall has one good game. The initial response is to have a crack at Tigers fans. I think this needs to stop. It's pretty stupid. Legit, just go watch last year's season for the Tigers. You'll realise that he wasn't the player he was at the Rabbitohs. And yes, he's playing really well in attack, but he's not really being tested in defence because A, the Rabbitohs have a lot of field position, but also he's got the best tacklers next to him. Basically said all this last week, so I'm not going to touch on it too much, but it is pretty triggering when you go on Twitter as soon as Benji does something well and half the chat is about Tigers fans and how stupid they are. It's like, I know people do it for responses, but people like Buzz Rothfield, like, seriously, mate, just grow up. And then my final winner is the Roosters. Good win in the Anzac Day traditional clash over the Dragons. Teddy went down pretty early, I think in the 20th minute. He was out with concussion. They swung Joey Manu back to show their versatility in the back line, well, everywhere really. But yeah, to beat a team that was flying in the Dragons pretty comfortably in the end, 34-10. It was a pretty high quality game early. Both teams were really having a dip, but the Roosters just seemed too strong. I don't want to put too much pressure on him because we can't expect too much from an 18-year-old. But Sam Walker is absolutely flying to start his season. Even Drew Hutchinson's playing well now, so it's good signs for the Roosters. If they can they're going to be there in finals. They might even push for top 4 in this form, but yeah, it looks like we probably wrote them off 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I'm not sure they're good enough to win a premiership. I don't know how they stack up against the big sides. We'll have to see later on in the regular season when they play them. But yeah, I probably wouldn't pencil them out of the premiership anymore. They look like they could beat most teams on their day. So really good week for the Roosters. So that's enough for the winners. I'll now touch on the losers. First of all, so I'm going to talk about the Tigers and Broncos here. Yes, these teams have been in the losers for a long time now, so I don't want to bash on them too much, but I'll, try and be constructive. But the Broncos had really a weekend from hell, you have to say. Lost by 40 to the Eels. Touching on this game, I know they're trying to expand the game and they want fans from everywhere to watch rugby league, which is great and something the AFL do really well. Yes, people down here in Melbourne think AFL is really big in Queensland, New South Wales. I'll tell you it's not, but they do reach all parts of Australia, which is good. I think the NRL needs to try and do that more, which they are, but I tell you what, I felt bad for the players. They were absolutely sweating bullets in this game up in Darwin. Even in the national anthems, when they panned across, you could see everyone was already sweating. Blake Ferguson apparently threw up in the 5th minute mark. So yeah, really rough game for the players, but the Broncos, who you think would be used to the humidity more than the Eels, they were the team that just did not show up. The Eels were way too good in all aspects of the game, and the Eels, as we've become accustomed to in the last 3 years, they just really punish these teams who aren't anywhere near their level, and they should do it on the scoreboard as well. They won by 40, but just to add insult to injury, we obviously saw that in video of Kevin Walters blowing up in the dressing room. He threw the jumper on the ground. So he's obviously really frustrated with what he's seeing from his side. What hurt though, Rhys Walsh, the young fullback who left the Broncos earlier in the year, he made his debut for the Warriors, and I have to say he looked bloody good. You could just tell the first time he got the ball, the way he moved. It was like when Ponga debuted. I'm not saying he's going to be Ponga. I'm not putting any pressure on him. But when you watch Ponga first play, the way his agility and just the way he moved, he kind of glided, sharp steps. You just knew he was going to be a really talented player. And the same went for Rhys Walsh. As soon as me and my older brother saw him get the ball, we're like, geez, this guy's going to be good, isn't he? And he played really well. Really interesting that he played fullback and Roger went wing. This week, he's been named at 5'8", which I have to say, on the day, I was a bit confused why he didn't play 5'8" and Bailey Sironen did. I didn't watch the second half, so I don't know if he shifted into there late in the game. But yeah, when you had one of the world's best fullbacks a wing and a fullback who looked like he could play 5'8", it was a bit weird that you were playing a forward in 5'8". I know Sironen did have experience there in juniors, but that's good that they've made that move. Really excited to watch him play this week. When do the Warriors play, actually? They play Sunday 2 o'clock, so I'll be watching that. Bit of a dead game against the Cowboys, but he'll give us something to watch. And then they lost Dearden to the Cowboys on Monday. Look, I think this was inevitable, really. Dearden wasn't... I don't watch the Broncos that closely, so Broncos fans can let me know in the comments below or my Instagram DMs how they think Dearden is as a player, but I also thought he's pretty good, better than Brodie Croft anyway, in my opinion, and he didn't really seem to get the same level of respect that Brodie Croft did. I think because Brodie Croft came in, they were really trying hard to make him work because they didn't want to be... They were being stubborn, basically, where Dearden didn't seem to get the same persistence, but... so Dearden's pulled the pin. He's moving up to North Queensland along with Chad Townsend, so I don't know if he's going to play 6 and Chad Townsend's going to play 7. I would guess that, or maybe the other way, because I guess Chad Townsend does play with Sean Johnson, but yeah, I don't know. They seem kind of like similar players, but Dearden is a good runner of the footy as well. But that's an interesting move for the Cowboys, but yeah, just another nail, well, not the coffin, but adds insult to injury for the Broncos after what was a devastating weekend. And then Kevin Walters bounced back bitterly on Tuesday and dropped about 4 of his players. Dropped Croft and Dearden back to the Queensland Cup. David Mead also got dropped. I think someone else got dropped. Can't remember. And now look, I don't know how I feel about this. I think it's good that he's chopping and changing. It's a lot more inspiring as a fan when your coach is making changes than what Michael Maguire does and just basically picks the same team this week. But I don't actually know if it's that constructive. It's pretty hard to win a game when your halves pairing changes every 5 minutes. But in saying that, they might come out this week and win and shut me up. So, going to be interested to see how Milford and Tyson Gamble go. Milford's supposedly month-long stint in Queensland Cup only lasted 2 weeks, but I feel bad for Kevin Walters. He's walked into a pretty nightmarish situation at the moment, so hopefully they can turn it around, but yeah, it's really a struggle street right now for Brisbane. Next loser I'm going to touch on is the Canberra Raiders. Now look, I don't think it's panic stations for them at all. I'll be honest, I don't know how we go in this cycle every year, but in both codes, all sports, people always seem to forget that the first quarter of the season isn't actually that relevant, especially when you're playing a season with finals. For example, I know in the Premier League, when Everton were top after 4 rounds, everyone was like, are they actually going to win the Premier League? Now they're 9th. And then last year, I think Richmond were 1 win, 2 losses and a tie after round 4, and everyone was like, nope, they're done, they're cooked. They ended up winning the premiership. So I think everyone just needs to relax on the Raiders. This is pretty similar to what they did last year. I remember watching them play a few games and they were just really just looked disconnected. So I don't think we need to be too harsh on them, but they lost to the Cowboys, which isn't really good enough for a top 6 team. And now Josh Papali's getting rested. Their team's just chopping and changing every week. I don't think they've found the right forward balance yet. I think they've got the best forward pack in the competition on paper anyway. Not sure about form, but it's really, really hard to fit them all into one team. We've seen Harawira-Naera, we've seen Horsburgh, we've seen Tarpany all have stints and reserve grades. And they're all really, really good, talented players. 2 of them have played international footy. So, I don't actually know what the best starting lineup is. It's a really tough one. So they're eventually going to find that right mix, and then all of a sudden they're going to be a dangerous team. But at the moment, they're just struggling a little bit. But yeah, I don't think it's panic stations for the Raiders, but they are definitely a loser coming out of the weekend, losing to the Cowboys. I thought this would be a bit of a bounce-back week for them, but evidently it wasn't. And now they've got the Rabbitohs, which doesn't get any easier, and then they've got the Knights. So 2 tough weeks for them, but definitely not panic stations for the Raiders just yet. It is only round 7. And then finally, the Tigers, another really frustrating performances, really played well in that first 30 minutes, and then that last 50, it just went to crap. They should have been probably 3 tries up at the 30-minute mark. We had all the ball in the first 15. We only ended up scoring 1 try late, and it was a pretty fluky try. It was like a deflected kick. So that's disappointing, and it was pretty weird because our attack's been actually pretty fluid all year. So that was really disappointing. I think they're starting to head in the right direction in terms of team selection. I think Uto Ikamanu is finally starting, which is a good thing. They've got Simpkin in, who looks better than Little, but they still need some fine-tuning on that starting lineup. Leilua comes in this week for Cheekham, which was an experiment that didn't really work. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Leilua's frustrating because 70 minutes, he's probably the best centre at the club, but then he'll give you that 10 minutes of just pure crap. I'm not sure if you can hear the tradies next door, but we'll just push through it. And yeah, I think James Roberts has been really frustrating. I think he's been a crap signing. I know he was not on much money at all, but he's just not playing well. I didn't expect him to be back to his New South Wales level, but he's just not even playing good club footy at this point. Just so many errors, zero impact on the game. So he's probably been my main frustration at the moment. Zane Musgrove came on. He was absolutely awful in defence. He got dropped this week, which is good to see. But yeah, it's just really frustrating. Tom Amone's still not in the team, which I don't know about. McKaylee came back into the 17, which is good. I think he's in our best 17. But I think Tom Amone has a place there as well. But yeah, it's just really frustrating as a Tigers fan right now, because we've been doing it really since the start of last year, where we just... if we play like we do against the big teams, like we did against the Rabbitohs, for example, we'll win most of the games against these. Well, not the Manly's a bad team at all, but these weaker sides. Like if we played like we did against the Rabbitohs, we would have beaten Manly. We probably would have beaten the Cowboys. The middle defense on the weekend was just horrible, where it wasn't against the Rabbitohs. So yeah, that's frustrating, because we get up for the big games, we always put in a fight, and then we don't get the points, and then we come up against these small teams that we should beat, and then we don't win either. So yeah, it's just really frustrating. I don't really know the answers anymore. I do feel bad for Madge, because it just seems like nothing's working. I think we're just got to give him more time personally. I'll get into the coaching tier list in a second, but yeah, I like that he's kind of sticking with the boys, having some faith that he's only round 7 and just hoping the tides turn. But yeah, look, not much we can do. I'm surprised Zach Seeney hasn't come in yet. I think he should... If Roberts plays the same on the weekend, I think Zach Seeney's got to come in. Yes, he is playing fullback in the Magoos, but he's playing fullback very, very well, and he's basically getting man in the match every week. So I think we should get him in the team. And then another reason is, like, you don't want a team coming in, grabbing him, and then he's a star again. So you'd rather blood him, even if it's on his preferred position. But it looks like Dane Laurie's got the fullback spot on lock. So I'd like to see him come into the team at some point. And then also Tom, I just think he's a really good player and is someone we kind of need. So that's a bit disappointing. But yeah, enough talk about the Tigers. We'll probably talk about them most weeks, as I am a big Tigers fan, but I don't want to bore you too much. So moving on to our predicted top 8. I haven't had too many changes, so I'll just run through 1 to 8 yet again. So the Storm, number 1, I've still got them above the Panthers just. Panthers number 2, Rabbitohs 3rd, Eels 4th. I've now dropped the Raiders below the Roosters. I just think the Roosters have shown good enough form that they're still going to be right and about, right in the midst for the top 4. So I've got them in 5th, Raiders down to 6th, Titans down still in 7th, and I've kept the Dragons in 8th. They did have a disappointing result against the Roosters, but I think they were pretty good for the first 20 minutes. I know that's a very small portion of the game, but I just haven't seen enough from the other teams below them to chuck them in, where I think the Dragons will be a pretty solid lineup for the most of the year. I'm ruling out the Tigers now. Last week I had the Bulldogs, Broncos, Cowboys, no chance of making it, and I know the Cowboys have now won 3 games, but I'm still keeping them there. I'm ruling out the Tigers now. I tried to stay loyal last week, but no, we're not making finals, let's be real. But the Knights, Warriors, Sharks, Seagulls are all in the mix for that number 8 spot, along with the Dragons. So that's an exciting race for 8th. And I'm not saying the top 7's completely locked in as well. So we'll keep monitoring those teams and change the top 8 bracket as we see fit. Alright, coaches tier list time. I've got 5 categories for you. I've got an immortal tier. So I know there's no real immortal coaches, but coaches that deserve immortal status or Hall of Fame status or whatever you want to call it. Then below that, I've got the elite category, so just a really great coach that's not quite at that immortal level, but maybe one day will. Then below that, I've got a solid coach, so someone who doesn't deserve to be sacked, but they're also not really lighting the world on fire. Inexperienced coach is probably just someone we haven't seen enough yet to judge. They might be good, they might be bad, we're not sure. And then finally, hot seat, so those coaches who... the seat below them starting to warm up, and they might be on the chopping block before the year's end. Alright, starting with Brad Arthur. He has a 50.3% win rate in his career, all with Parramatta. And now this is a tough one with BA. I think he's an overrated coach in my humble opinion. So I think I'm not going to go elite. I think I'm going to go solid. I just think he has a really, really good team. And I think there would be a few other coaches that would get a little bit more out of that team. So, yes, I guess he might have had a role in that list management. So that's a good thing. He's got a really good ability to draw players. We've seen people like Opacek and Sean Lane who came to the club, and Gutherson who came to Parramatta as really nobodies, and they're now pretty good players. Oh, well, Gutherson's elite, the other two pretty good, so I guess he's good at drawing that. But yeah, I'm going to put him in solid. Top end of solid, bottom end of elite, but I'll go solid. Trent Barrett, he's only got a 37% win rate, obviously had a really unsuccessful stint with the Seagulls, then went to Penrith as assistant coach, and now he started the Bulldogs. He's probably... I'm going to have to put him in experience. I don't think I can put him in solid yet, but he's obviously not on the hot seat, is he? Because he just started the Bulldogs. So I'm going to put him in an inexperienced coach. We haven't seen enough of him. He's still a very young man. So I'm going to put Trent Barrett in experience. Next, no-brainer, Craig Bellamy, straight into the immortal tier. 69.1% win rate. Highest win percentage of any coach with more than 30 games coached. He has 3 premierships, 4 minor premierships. I'm not mentioning those cheating ones, as a lot of people do, but I don't get why they get mentioned. But still, 3 premierships is absolutely incredible. In my lifetime, he's been the best coach I've ever seen. Yes, Wayne Bennett has the longevity, but didn't see the first part of his career. But yeah, Craig Bellamy's consistency. Wayne Bennett's teams have had a few down years where Craig Bellamy hasn't. Yes, Wayne Bennett's moved to different clubs and he's done it with different teams, so that's more impressive. But yeah, what Bellamy's built in Melbourne, absolutely incredible. So he's straight into immortal. Wayne Bennett also into immortal, 61.5%, so a lot less than Bellamy, but he's coached the most games ever at 868 games coached. He's also won 7 premierships. Yes, his career's been very, very long, but that's so impressive. And yeah, fair play to both of them. 2 of the best coaches ever, if not the 2 best ever. So they're both into the immortal tier. Next up, we've got Nathan Brown. He's probably one of the toughest ones to judge, I think. 42% win rate in the NRL, not great, but he had a 60% win rate in the Super League. He did have a 26% win rate at the Knights, Nathan Brown. But he did win the Super League with St. Helens. So, look, it's a tough one. I don't think I can put him in inexperienced, but he's also not in the hot seat. So I think I'm going to have to put him at the very, very low end of solid. I'm not putting him on the same level with Brad Arthur, but probably should be another tier in there that's just like average. But no, I'll keep it as it is. So I'll put him at the very bottom of solid. Ivan Cleary, Penrith coach, obviously, he has a sub 50% win rate in his 3 previous coaching gigs, but it's 72% in his current gig. So that's very good. I'm not going to put him at elite, I don't think. I think I'm going to put him at the top end of solid. Yes, what he's drawn out of these youngsters is very impressive, and the run they've been on is incredible, but it is really only 2 years of his career that's been good. The rest of it hasn't been great. So I'm not going to, get around him too much just yet. And he still hasn't won a premiership yet. So I'm going to put him in the top of solid. Anthony Griffin, 56% in career win rate, unfairly sacked twice, once at the Broncos, once at Penrith, and he's now doing really well for the Dragons. And I know he hasn't had premiership success, which I just said as a downfall of Ivan Cleary, but I'm legit considering putting him in the... I'm putting him in elite. I don't care what you say. I think he's a really good coach. He's shown with 3 different teams now, and that he just gets results. Yes, he doesn't play the most exciting brand of footy. Yes, he hasn't proven he can win premierships, but he gets results. So I'm putting him at the bottom end of elite. Yes, that's controversial, but cop. If you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments or in my Instagram DMs. Josh Hannay, the current interim coach, obviously straight into inexperience. He's only coached 11 games. Some of the Cowboys, some of the Sharks, so not really much to say about him. Next up, Desi Hasler, 2 premierships, one in 2008, one in 2011, at a 57% win rate. I think I'm going to put him in elite. Yes, in the recent years, Brad Arthur and Ivan Cleary have been better, but he's got premierships under his name. He did basically fuck up the Bulldogs. Let's not lie there. He really ruined them with the salary cap issue there, but... great win percentage, 2 premierships. I think he's too good to be in solid, so he's going elite. Justin Holbrook, He has only a 44% win rate at the Gold Coast, but an 80% win rate at St. Helens. Now, this is bold of me. Oh, I don't know. I kind of rate him above Anthony Griffin, though. Oh, that's tough. Actually, I'm moving... Can I do that? Can I move Anthony Griffin down to solid and put... Yeah, I'll do that. Anthony Griffin down to solid at the very top of solid. And I'm going to put Justin Holbrook at the bottom of elite. I just think what he's gotten out of this Gold Coast team so far has been really, really impressive. And an 80% win rate in the Super League. I know the St. Helens team's stacked, but that's pretty incredible. That's unheard of in NRL or Rugby League. Yeah, that's, winning 8 games out of 10. That's winning 16 out of 20. He also won a few premierships there, I believe. So, yes, the win rate's not quite there with the Titans, but what the progress he's shown already in such a short span of time has been incredible. So, I know I was just saying Ivan Cleary, his history's not great, but Holbrook, I'm getting around him. I'm putting him in elite. Michael Maguire. Now, look, I'm probably going to put him in the hot seat. I don't think he's a bad coach, but right now, he's just not really getting results, is he? Won a premiership in 2014 with Souths, 57% career win rate, which is really good, but only 37% at the Tigers. It's a really weak squad, so I can't blame him for that. He came in with salary cap issues, a lot of wasted money in reserve grade and players who weren't his favourites, so I'm going to put him in the hot seat just because he is in the hot seat realistically. When you think of the 16 coaches, he's probably the one closest to getting sacked, although I'm praying the Tigers don't sack him. I'm scared they're going to reflex sack him, but I want him to see out the rest of this year at least, if not next year, because I just don't think he's really been given a fair crack with the salary cap, but I want him to have a really good chance of showing signs of progress. I think Tigers in recent times have been a little bit premature. I know Ivan Cleary walked out on us, that wasn't our choice, but they've been a little bit premature with their sacking, so I'm going to put Michael Maguire hot seat, but I hope he doesn't get sacked. Adam O'Brien. Now, he's an interesting one. I think he's not really been talked about that much. He guided the Knights to finals last year in his first year as a coach. 50% win rate, which is pretty handy for your first coach, for your first gig. He's only coached 28 games, so he's close to inexperienced, but I'll put him in solid. They've got a really good team, so he's certainly not elite, but I think he's just doing a solid job there. Toddy Payton. Just get back to Adam O'Brien. If the Knights come below 10th this year, I'm not even... it's very early in his career, but I wouldn't even say he's that far off the hot seat. I know that's a big call, but... then Toddy Payton, I'm going to put him in inexperienced. I know he's coached 21 games, only 7 less than O'Brien, but he was interim coach for most of it at the Warriors, so... 43% win rate, got a lot out of that Warriors team last year, and he's now looking at the last 3 weeks, he's doing pretty well with his Cowboys side, so I'm going to put him in inexperienced, but he looks like a solid coach. Trent Robinson, he is the very, very top end of elite, not putting him in immortal yet, because he hasn't really had the longevity yet, but 3 premierships, 64% win rate, it's an incredible start to his coaching career, and I'm sure one day he will get to that immortal status, but for me right now, he's going in the top of elite. Ricky Stewart is my next man. He had a premiership in 2002 with the Roosters a long time ago. 50% win rate career-wise, 52% win rate with the Raiders. Now, he's a tough one. I mean, I do think they probably should have won a premiership in the last 5 years. I think they've had a really strong team for quite a few years, and they haven't... They've obviously made the grand final, but they haven't been dominant in any particular season. But I'm going to put Ricky Stewart in elite. I think, he's just built a really good squad here at the Raiders. Yes, I know people probably saying how is Brad Arthur and Ivan Cleary and Anthony Griffin worse than him, which is actually a very fair point now that I think about it. But I like Ricky Stewart. I think he's doing good things at Canberra. Yes, they have slow starts to the year, but they're always there or thereabouts in finals. And I hope they get a premiership soon, because I do like this Raiders lineup. Kevin Walters finally only coached 7 games of NRL, so he's straight into inexperienced, but I can't lie, he's probably not far off the hot seat, to be honest. He's only coached 7 games, as I just mentioned, but he went at 37% win rate at his time with the Catalans Dragons in 2009, I think it was. So that's not great, especially when most of these other coaches have killed it when they're in the Super League, so... Yeah, he hasn't got a good track record at all, but he hasn't coached enough for me to say he's on the hot seat. I think it would be weird if the Broncos sacked him before the end of the year. So for me, well, they did with Seabold, but for me, he's inexperienced. That leaves only Madge in the hot seat section, which is interesting. But I'll be honest, I don't think there are many. Most of the bottom teams have new coaches, and John Morris got sacked. Don't know if he would have even been in the hot seat, but anyway. So that's my thoughts on the coaching. Leave your thoughts below in the comments. And yeah, I want to see what you guys think. Alright, that moves us on to our round 8 predictions. I'll be honest, just a warning to you NRL fans out there. I'm praying it's not. But I don't know what round it was. It might have been round 4 or something. There was a week where there was an absolute flogging. So I think it was Easter weekend. I'll be honest, I think we might be in for another one this week, guys. Guys and girls. I just think this is going to be a gnarly weekend. I'm not tipping any upsets. I'm going to give you an upset of the week, but I'll be open and honest. When I tip this week, I'm going with the 8 favourites. I just don't see there being too many close games or interesting games. But I could be proven wrong if a few teams turn up that I are assuming won't turn up. So we have my sure bet of the week is Melbourne to beat the Sharks. The Friday 6 p.m. game, interesting time slot. Don't know if I'll go to that. We'll see. In Melbourne, look, I think the Sharks. They have beaten the Storm in recent years. I remember. I think they beat them at Shark Park maybe when Cameron Smith got simmed in a few years ago. But I just think the Storm will be too strong right now. The Storm are probably one of the safest bets to tip with. I know I never put the Panthers in the sure bet of the week, but I don't know why. I'm just like, there's a loss coming around the corner, so I don't want to do that on that week. The Eels versus the Bulldogs is also a pretty sure bet. Yes, the Bulldogs did win last week, but the Eels don't lose to teams they should beat, so that's also pretty likely. But yeah, Storm versus the Sharks. The form the Sharks are in right now, yes, they've got very talented lineup, but I just think the Storm will be too good once again. Upset of the week, I'm going the Knights to beat the Roosters. I know I just talked up the Roosters for a long time there. I'm not tipping it, as I just mentioned before, but this is just what I think is the most likely upset to get up. It's a home game for the Knights. They've won one of their last 5, which is like, why are you tipping them, Hamish? But they're a good team. They're going to be there or thereabouts for finals, and the Tides have to churn soon. Otherwise, they're going to be out of that finals race before they know it. With teams like Manly, the Dragons, the Warriors, firing on all cylinders at the moment. Well, they're not really, are they? But you know what I mean. They're playing well, getting more wins than 1 and 5. So I just think the Knights have got to start winning somewhere. I think they were pretty competitive last week against the Panthers. And yeah, I think they could upset the Roosters here. Big Saturday night game. They don't get many primetime games at McDonald Jones Stadium, so should be a full crowd. And yet, hopefully the Knights rip and tear there. Other games that are a chance of an upset, the Raiders could just bounce back against the Rabbitohs at home. Hopefully that's a good game, because on paper that's a good game. The Seagulls, if they keep it up, supposedly could beat the Panthers. You never know. Broncos could bounce back against the Titans. Cowboys could continue their run against the Warriors. Tigers could bounce back against the Dragons, but I'm not really backing any of those with too much confidence. The game spreads I like, so for your multis, so obviously I don't gamble responsibly and I don't like giving betting advice, but these are the ones that I fancy the most. The Storm at minus 17.5 against the Sharks. I can see two worlds here. I can see a really grubby game, low scoring, Friday night, 6pm, classic 12-10 type. But then I can also see the Storm coming out and putting on 50 points like they have the last 3 weeks. And the Sharks only putting up 12 or 16 points. So I think there's a solid chance the Storm win by more than 3 tries. The way they're playing right now is pretty unstoppable, so yeah, I like them for that. Titans at minus 12 versus the Broncos. I am scared of tipping against the bad teams because whether it's a team that's not so great like the Titans, but I'm scared the Broncos will come out and play well one week, but I think we've seen enough weeks of poor footy from them to start to be a little bit more confident in that. Titans, I think they got their wake-up call at Manly. I think that was a turning point for them, and I think they're going to be a bit more consistent now. And I think they're going to rock up to Suncorp. And wait, why are they playing it? Are they playing at Suncorp? I actually don't know. I swear they played at Suncorp like 3 weeks ago. Anyway, I actually don't know what's going on there. But yeah, Titans -12. It's only 2 tries. I think that's a solid chance of happening. And then I've got the Warriors -4 versus the Cowboys. I say this pretty much on every podcast, AFL and NRL. If the team you're tipping has a handicap of less than a try, I always think it's a good option to go with them. Very few games are decided by under 6 points, so if you like them, basically get on them. So yeah, the Warriors -4 versus the Cowboys. I think the Warriors will win, therefore I think they will win by more than 4 points. So I like them there. But yeah, look, it's a tough week in terms of finding value for your multis. I just don't think there's going to be too many upsets, sadly. As I mentioned, I'm tipping the 8 favourites. For tipping, very boring, but I honestly don't think these upsets are too likely or too predictable, basically. So that's been another week of the NRL review. I think they're going to still be coming weekly, but I will see. I might, it is tough going on my own here. So if you've enjoyed it, give me some sparing feedback in the comments below, or get around me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever you want to do on Twitter. I hope you have found some insightful opinions on this podcast today. If you haven't, feel free to disagree. If you have, let me know. Same time, same place next week. Catch you later. Cheers.